to the cross. You capture life for us, keeping me in mind. On that tree you died. 3 days further on, the rising of the sun. Seasons change, but your love still remains. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are faithful, God, and you're always for me. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All my praise is yours, I give you glory. Made a home in me, and Lord, you never leave. You meet me where I'm at, guiding every step. We'll never part our ways. My heart, your dwelling place, is you and me and you forever. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are faithful, God, and you're always for me.
Okay. Well, we love it when a plan works. I had an intro.
Insight, Purpose, and Perspective, the podcast where we discuss today's topics and speak with people living with purpose, guided by faith.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I appreciate you coming in. Hey, tonight, guys, this is our premiere podcast starting up again, with a brand new platform. We're using Restream. And tonight I've got a special guest, Brother D'lo Payne. We're going to be talking about the decline of young people attending church, why they're not getting involved, why they are moving away from the church. And we're going to talk about some of the solutions, some of the problems, and dive into this deep. Brother D'lo, thank you for coming on and spending some time with you. I know you're a busy guy, but we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's my pleasure. Listen, guys, I wanted to start off with a stat, and then we're going to jump right into this conversation. Because when I was looking up this topic, one that really stood out to me was young people in particular are leaving in droves. A recent study revealed that nearly 70% of young adults who grew up in church walk away by their mid-20s. So we're going to be talking about that. I know Brother D'lo has a special perspective on that. But what I'm going to do is what I want to ask a question, and you can expound on this. What do you think are the biggest reasons young people are not attending church today?
I personally think the biggest reason that the youth or young adults are not joining church physically today is because of they have no purpose in the church right now.
Mm.
Whenever you go somewhere and you're just sitting there for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours even, and you're not even doing anything, it makes you not want to go back.
Right.
But if you're having fun, if you're clapping along, if you're singing along, even if you're doing sound, singing, if you're usher, deacon, security, you're doing something and you feel fulfilled while you're also being filled with the Lord's way. So I think that's a really big way in why youth and young adults are not physically going to the church. And plus, it is much easier to just go on their laptop or just go on their phone and type in whatever church they want, and they just sit there comfortably in their homes, just watch watch the service online instead of actually being in the presence of the Lord and the church.
We had this conversation earlier, and you touched on a point, and I know for myself, and you as well. I grew up in the church. It was mandatory. I mean, from the time I was, I guess, a baby, we came to church because I remember even as a teenager, my mother was like, "Well, if you go out on Saturday night, you can be there at church on Sunday morning." And like you, I was involved. I mean, I was a junior usher. I sang on the children's choir, but I know it came a point, and my upbringing is probably a little different than some, because I grew up in a Methodist church, and I don't know if you know a lot about Methodists, but Methodists are very similar to Catholics. It's very ordered because the very term Methodist, they got a certain method, and they don't deviate, and it's dry, and it's just ordered. And I always felt that there was something more. So when I got to a certain age, my mom was like, "Well, if you don't want to go to church, you don't have to." And I was like, "Bet." I didn't want to go anyway. But I eventually came back, because I believe, like the word says, train up a child in the way they should go. When they get old, they won't depart from it. Well, I wasn't old when I came back. I was in my mid-20s. But I received Christ in a Baptist church, and then I'd say what I got my education about Christ and the Christian education was in a Pentecostal church. So that was my experience. But I know you had talked about something similar, so you want to share that with us as well, especially from your experience.
So in my experience, is a little different because throughout that time, I did stay in the church. I never really did leave. But my reasoning for not leaving for any my reason, excuse me, my reason for not leaving is because not only was I working in the church, but I took pride in what I did. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been a sound technician basically my entire life. My father taught me when I was about 5 years old, and ever since then, it just kept growing. My knowledge for it kept growing and growing and growing. And right now, I'm still in the church, and I haven't left after 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but for some people, I see why they left because they don't have a purpose and they were forced to go since they were younger.
Right.
See, in my opinion, this may be very controversial, but I almost see that as a curse in some families, forcing their children to go to church. Now, I didn't say it's a curse to teach them in the ways of the Lord. Always teach them in the ways of the Lord, but
Right.
they have to find their own path for them to enjoy going to church, for them to
Right.
enjoy hearing praise and worship, for them to enjoy reading the Bible. You got to teach them when they're young. That way,
Mm-hmm.
when they get older, they don't stray away.
Right.
Because if you don't teach them right, and they're just thinking of church as a building where they have to sit down and be quiet for 3 hours, they're not going to want to. They're not going to want to do anything. They're not going to have a. Not going to want to do. Not going to want to have to do anything with it. They rather
Right.
just when they get older, rather just leave or not go back, or maybe even just leave that church and try somewhere else. And now next thing you know, they're bouncing around churches, not finding a
Mm-hmm.
church home.
Mm-hmm. So, so with that in mind, so how do you think churches could better engage? You touched on it a little bit, but better engage with young people and their interests. I mean, you talked about in your own experience, you've never really left the church. You got involved with working in the media and the sound. But everyone is not going to follow that route. But what do you think there are other things that might help them better engage with young people?
Some things that I believe the church can do to better help engage young people, or set designated times that aren't just for church or Bible study or revival.
Mm-hmm.
A gospel concert that can bring in the youth. A family and friends day where everyone's outside. There's a grill, gospel music playing, kids playing. That will really draw in people of the youth and just people in general to bring them back to the church because they're going to see all these events going on and they're going to want to see how fun it is, what's actually going on. And once you start to get them hooked with all these fun events, then that's when they'll start coming in for services, start coming in for revival, start coming in for Bible study. So I think a really good way to basically not trap people, but to draw people in is
Right.
to is to not be a quote unquote basic church. Don't
Right.
just have don't just have prayer in the morning, then Sunday school, and then service, and then Bible study. Expand your parameters.
Hmm.
Have a little fun. Have a little fun cookout for the youth. Have a concert. Get all the people you know together. Have a concert, and
Hmm.
encourage the youth. Encourage the youth to be a part of service and not just sit in service.
Right.
Encourage them to sing in the choir, sing on the praise team, be part of the media team or sound team, be security, be ushers, just anything that will help if they're great with kids, get them involved with even the younger youth. So I guess 1 to 8, get them involved in that. Just give them something to do where they're not just sitting there on their hands. Because
Right.
if you're at a job site, I doubt you want to be sitting down for 8 hours at a time. You would
Exactly.
rather be doing something to pass the time along a little faster, and you may enjoy your time a little more.
Yeah. So, what role do you believe social media and technology can play in shaping young people's views on faith and church? Um, when I was coming up, like I said, growing up in a Methodist church, it was very ordered, and I knew that there was something more. And that's what I did. Of course, we didn't have social media back in those days. I just started going from one church to the next until, like I said, when I went to a Baptist church, I'd never been to a Baptist church before, and the pastor is like on fire, and the singing, it was just, Methodist. They sang hymns. It was all hymns, which, like our pastor said, nothing wrong with hymns. They're the foundation, but having a more modern flavor to the music drew me in, and that's what initially drew me in. Plus they were much more welcoming as well. But how do you think the social media and technology can play in that?
So I feel like social media is both helping and hurting the church at the same time.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because it's helping the church because it's drawn in a wider audience than it would without technology. You just said when you were looking for a church, you had to basically go from church to church to church
Hmm.
to find one. But now with social media, every church is on social media, so you can see what that church is about before you even go there.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's hurting because people have gotten too comfortable, especially after COVID.
Right.
People have gotten way too comfortable, and they'll just rather sit on the couch, go on the TV, go on YouTube, turn on the service, and not have to get up. They don't
Hmm.
have to. They don't have to get up early and actually go to service. So I feel like it's both helping and hurting the church at the same time.
Right. Well, I know there's a scripture. Like you said, with post COVID, a lot of people have still have some fears about
Mhm.
coming together in close proximity with people. But I know there's a scripture. I'm not gonna quote it, but there's something special about assembling with people that think like you think, believe what you believe. You are able to draw strength from people, and even if you're going through something, it's not that you have to share everything that's going wrong, but having that church family means a lot. But I know it's probably different for young people wanting to share their struggles and whatnot. So that brings me to my next question. Do you believe that young people see church as welcoming and inclusive? And if not, what could be done to improve that?
I actually don't see for the young people. I don't see church as welcoming and inclusive.
Hmm.
Well, I won't say church in general. I'll say some churches.
Right.
Some churches aren't exactly welcoming and inclusive. And the reason I say that is because sometimes the older generation will discourage the younger generation.
Hmm.
Because just because the younger generation may have tattoos, may have piercings, they
Mm.
may have something that doesn't look like all of us. as church people, we tend to kind of like push them to the side or trying to make them feel worse than they really are.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel like young people don't want to. Also, feel like young people don't want to go in the church because I feel like they have fears of being judged
Right.
of what they look like or how they are. I just feel like they're going to be judged, and that's why sometimes churches had to be mindful of where they came from.
Right.
Church members had to remember that they didn't always start off as the mother. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
always start off as holy or anything like that. They didn't always start off as a pastor. They had to remember where their roots came from, where they originally started, and help along the young people in getting to that level if they do choose so to be.
Right. But I agree with you on the surface level, but I will also say, um, not so much about piercings and things that you can't change, but
Mm-hmm.
um, the way people dress. And I'm not bashing anybody. I also believe like you do. When you come to church, if you don't have a suit or a dress or something like that, just come. But I do believe that we have to set a standard. Um, because I've heard and I've seen in my experience where the church has become somewhat permissive and allowing uh, the culture of the day to dictate how people act and move. So I'm wondering, what do you think about that? Dressing provocatively to me is especially something that you shouldn't do in church. I mean, I don't think you should do it out in the world because it sends a certain message.
Yeah.
But for lack of a better term, like I said, you come as you are,
Mm-hmm.
but there should be a type of a certain amount of time. I don't even say that there's a time frame, but you should conform more to God's word, and the church shouldn't conform to society. And I think that's something I see happening as well. That in some ways, uh, like you say, when you got the older saints, they grew up in a certain era, and because this was years ago, I read an article about church music in general, because there was a time when the only instrument that was in the church was a piano.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now we have churches that have full orchestration. They got drums. They got all the, because like even say drums, they used to say drums was the devil's instrument. And I disagree. God can use anything for His glory,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But in that sense, we've seen how the church has adapted and using these things, but also allowing culture sometimes to dictate how we move and what we think is appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, I mean, do you think that that might also be a turnoff that, um, younger people, they dress differently, you know, and like you said, the older saints sometimes can judge that and not make it as welcoming. I mean, how do you feel about how people should dress when they come to church?
Okay. And so to say, first off, when I say tattoos and piercings, I mean like extremely visible. So like
Mhm.
hand tattoos, maybe a neck
Right,
tattoo, something like that. But when I say to people dressing not of people dressing provocatively when they go to church, that's when you come to them in a gentle way
mm,
and say, "Hey, that's not what we really wear. That's not really appropriate for church.
right, right,
Can you maybe find something a little bit more modest?" Because
right,
I've seen in my own experience mothers coming up to women and men, or just or younger people in general, and kind of be aggressive in their approach
hmm,
and saying that's not what we wear around here, all that stuff. That's not how you keep people. That's not how you draw people in. That's how you
right,
just put people away. So, in my opinion, if you come to church and you haven't really ever came to church before and
right,
you don't really know what to wear, that first time is kind of an exception in my opinion.
right. I
But
agree.
once you're gently corrected, like, hey, that's not something we really wear around here. It's a nice outfit, but we can't really wear that in church. A little provocative. Do you mind wearing something a little bit more? Do you mind covering yourself more? Just a gentle way that doesn't have any mean tone. Doesn't have to be strict. Just a gentle way, like, hey, I know you're not used to being in church, so
Right.
let me gently remind you that like we don't really wear this.
Hmm. Definitely.
And 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 a way to a way that might surprise other people and and that way and gently correcting them is maybe offering a cover up or offering some something else. Maybe the church has like a little lost and found area or something like
Hmm.
that. They
Hmm.
can offer you clothes like, hey, we don't really dress like that, but here's a shirt, here's some pants that they can help you out.
Right. Right. That's good. I don't know how many churches that might do that, but that's a good idea. So, so do you feel that church services and their messages are relevant to your daily life and other young people's daily life? And if so, why or why not?
I do, I do, but that's because I walk with the Lord.
Hmm.
Now, if you don't walk with the Lord, it's not going to be relevant to you at all. There's nothing really you can do about it. They'll Because if you don't walk with the Lord, they'll just say the universe or something like that. But someone like me excuse me, who follows the Lord, it is kind of it is very relevant. Like I truly love to listen to the word
Hmm.
and think back over my life, or think back even just the past few days, and really rectify like how relevant it is, and it feels like the pastor is sometimes talking directly to me.
Right.
And so I do think it is very very relevant. Even in 2025, it is very relevant.
Well, do you think that there are better ways that we can um, maybe modify? That's a tough word, but make it so that people in your age group can receive those messages and get them. And we've already talked about how they can get involved in the services,
Hmm.
but when we're blessed, we have a pastor who's relatively young, but you got some pastors who are my age, 60 or 70 plus. Is there ways to modify? I hate to say modify, but create a message that young people could receive better. I know sometimes we say, just tell them the truth.
Hmm.
And I know from my own experience, sometimes you tell people the truth, they like, it's what they call cognitive dissonance. If it doesn't line up with their line of thinking, their thought processes, the truth, it'll bounce right off of them.
Yeah.
You know,
So you were kind of right in your words of modify, and but not in the way that you were probably thinking. When
right?
I think of modify, I just think of the way you deliver your message.
Hmm.
So so make it more just modern. Use real world examples of today's age instead of
Hmm.
using examples from 50 or 60 years ago.
Right.
That's a way you can that's a way you can appeal to the young folks, because if they hear, say for example, if they hear a pastor talking about talking about talking about the real world beef between two rappers, then they might listen because that's something that they know, they recognize. So their
Hmm.
ears will automatically open.
Right.
That's a way. And or they talk about the economy of today's world, and how some younger people are struggling to actually get on their own because the economy is so
Right.
out there, and how jobs aren't paying as much as they used to. So I feel like modernizing the message isn't really what you were looking for. I think you try to make the delivery more modern.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess that's the better way to say it. Well, look, guys, we've been on for about 23 minutes. We've got quite a few people on live is there. I'm going to open up the chat. And if everybody got any questions or anything they'd like to add to the conversation, I'm going to pose the question, and anybody can try to chime in. Are there any specific challenges or barriers that would prevent young people from attending church? I want to hear from you guys. Do you have any insight or any words you have to say about that issue? Are there any challenges or barriers that we haven't covered already that we can discuss or we can talk about? So we're going to give people a chance to chime in if they like to. I'm going to pull up the chat and see. We don't have any new comments, so we'll keep moving. While we're waiting on folks to chime in if they feel like they do so. Let's see, we've covered social media. We've talked about relevance. We've talked about why young people are not attending church. We talked about how the church should be more welcoming and inclusive. Well, we look like we've covered about pretty much everything. What would make the church more appealing or meaningful? We kind of covered that back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, looks like we don't have any comments. We don't have any questions. And we're about 25 minutes in. So I think we're just gonna end it right there. Maybe we'll get some engagement later on, guys. If this is your first time watching Insight, Purpose, and Perspective, I appreciate it if you would go over to the YouTube channel and check it out. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate those subscriptions. Well, something beeped. What was that? Was that somebody coming in? Oh, we do have some people. You know what? We got some people in backstage. Percy Payne, is that your dad?
Yeah.
Well,
That's my father. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring your dad on. Let's go, Percy. We're gonna bring you on, bring you into the conversation. If you want to chime in, we appreciate you coming in. Do you have anything to add, sir? And he's not talking. He's just watching. Well, you can turn your camera on. Let us see you. Or if you want to stay off camera, you can. No.
I do see we have.
Yeah. Oh, we got. Oh, okay.
I do see a comment.
Yeah, we got a comment. How do you feel about having a youth ministry? Thank you, Minister Dwight, for that.
I actually think it's a good idea. I really do. And the reason I say that is because, of course, kids have their kids ministry, but once you get to that age of like 13 to about 16, 17, 18, 19, there's nothing else you can really do in between that time. You're just sitting there if you're not, part of the sound team or doing really anything else. You're quite literally just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a youth ministry is actually really good, and not just a kids ministry, but a youth / young adult ministry.
Right. Like maybe from ages 18 to maybe 30 or something like that. But who and we got something else here from Ebony. She says, discuss how we as church people can mentor and cultivate the gifts in others as they come into the church. Oh, that is good. That is really good.
That's very good. So a way we can mentor and cultivate gifts in the church is because most churches have just about any person you can think of. And so if they have a gift for digital design, for creating images, creating slides, let someone else in the church who's probably part of the media team get that person, get those two people in connection. And that's another way that they can also They can also actually feel happy and joyful to come back to church because
Right.
they're also honing their own gifts,
Yeah.
but they're learning from other people. They're widening their perspectives.
Yeah. That's great. All right. We got something from your mom, Sister Stephanie. Breaking tradition is key to keeping youth and young adults. That is a great point. Yes.
Completely agree.
Tradition, I think, is one of the worst things that happens in a lot of churches. We get stuck. Like I said, myself growing up in a Methodist church, they had this order of worship that they never deviated from as long as I can remember. Now, I know I'm not going to name the church, but I think that they have broken free from that. They have a different pastor now who, because the pastor that I was, he was pastor probably 40 years,
Mhm.
and like I say, that's tradition is one of the worst things. Well, we've always done it this way. Well, you can't put God in a box.
Yeah.
And I think there's even a scripture somewhere in Deuteronomy where it says God says he can do a new thing. Well, the God is limitless. He can do whatever. But I think that does happen. That tradition is one of the worst things in general, not just with young people and young adults, but at the church as a whole. That we can get stuck in a mode, and it does stifle
Mhm.
growth in the church. And I think that's a lot of times what happens with some of these churches that die out. They get stuck in that thing. And let's see, we have another comment here. Sister Bria says, "Is old church scared of the changes that the new church needs?"
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say yes because sometimes when you're doing something for generations, you're doing something just from tradition. Change is completely horrifying for you because it's different. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's the outcome. See, if you don't change, you already know what's going to happen. You know that the the mothers and the elders are going to come in. But
Mm-hmm.
if you change your ways, you don't know if the elders and the mothers will come back. You don't know if the youth will start to come in. So I feel like a lot of old churches are horrified to change their ways.
Yeah, definitely. But then you talk about what are the new church's needs. That's something I think that a topic for another discussion is as we move further along. Uh, we have so much, just like we say with the advent of social media and the technology, we stream our services. Uh, we're able to reach people at totally different levels. I mean, I remember, one of those things we used to always pray about in the church is praying for the sick and the shut in. You know, well, they used to have to send somebody out to go see about them, but now they
Mhm.
can at least tune in and catch the service and get the word without having to physically be in the church. So there are some benefits there.
Oh
But again, there are some people, especially in
yeah.
my age group and older, who are still somewhat fearful of technology. I have some people that, uh, they don't do electronic banking and debit cards and all. They still write checks and things like that, which sounds ridiculous. But there are people who do that. So how do we? That's a question. How do we overcome or help people overcome those fears and preconceived notions about what technology and can bring? You know, Here's another one. Change is necessary for growth and capturing the next generation. Absolutely,
Oh yeah,
sister.
it definitely is.
Absolutely. Um, I
So
think this. Go ahead.
to answer your question that you just asked, how do we how do we go for those changes to include the youth? It is 100% a leap of faith.
Hmm.
That's all it is. It is 100% a leap of faith. There's not You can't predict it. You can't. There's nothing to really think about. You have to just go for it. Be scared of you can't be scared of change. You can't be scared of potentially losing some people because they don't like the change, but in return, you gain hundreds because they
Hmm.
love the change. and they're ready and they're ready to go in the Lord, to walk with the Lord. But the way you're going about it now isn't how it's supposed not how it's supposed to be done, but isn't how it's capturing them.
Right.
And sometimes it's just a few little changes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like a major church. It doesn't have to be you completely rehauling the structure of your church. It can be something as simple as the pastor going to the front and welcoming people like our pastor does.
Right.
It could be something as simple as that, and that will capture people right there.
Exactly. You know, and also our Friday's revival message. You know, Apostle Samuel's talked about. You know, if you can't get along, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I think what she meant was, you know, if your pride and your lack of understanding how we need to innovate and we need to change, if you can't get with that, you know, well then you can move on, because like you said, if we lose a handful of people but we gain hundreds or thousands, you know, then that we have to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we don't want to offend people if we don't have to, but some people are so easily offended nowadays.
Mhm.
You know, like you say, with tradition, well, we've always done it this way. Well, we're going to do something different. Well,
Yeah.
I don't like that. Well, there's the door.
Yeah.
You know, you can go do that somewhere else. We're moving forward. Oh boy, let me stop. I'm not going to get on my soapbox and start talking, because I'll probably yeah, they'll probably be throwing darts at the screen before I get finished. I'm gonna keep my mouth closed on that. But definitely, I believe that um, you know, I've seen so much change in church. You know, from the time when I was growing up to where we are now. I, for one, am welcome to the changes, because you know, I love technology. You know, and especially when it works. We've
Yeah.
had our challenges in our
Yeah.
church with our technology, but for the most part, it works relatively good, and we have definitely reached a lot of people. Yeah, but yeah, so we don't have any more questions. We don't have any more comments. Let me look through the chat right quick, see if we have any comments. Oh, don't want to leave out my wife. That's a great idea. I can't remember what that idea was, but if she says it's great, it was great.
I think it was for the youth
Having
ministry.
a youth ministry, I think so, because that was the question Minister White posed. He said, "How about having a youth ministry?" So she chimed in on that one. We appreciate my beautiful wife coming on and supporting us. Yeah, but let's scroll down and see. Ah, here we go. Yeah, absolutely a leap of faith. I feel like the old church has more faith and tradition, and they need to trust God. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Thank you, Sister Bria, for that comment. You know, I think that's one of the things that, as we move forward uh, with promoting God's word and spreading the gospel, uh, that we need to be able to always be relevant to the times, like you talked about,
Mhm.
given real life situations, and not that there's nothing wrong with citing scripture and sharing those words,
Yeah.
but you need to be able to mix the two, so that, because we don't know where people are, you
That's
know,
true.
and I think, like our pastor, he tries to meet people where they are and then move them forward. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's
And another thing with what you just said, we in the church, you always hear God is everywhere.
mm,
How do you, to someone who doesn't go to church, how do they know if God's everywhere if you only hear about him in the Bible?
mm-hmm,
If you don't hear him anywhere else in real life or politics or
mm-hmm,
just in general, how do you know that how as some like say for example, I didn't go to church at all.
right,
How do I know God is right outside my door if I don't actually if you don't actually include him in real world experiences and real world events?
mm-hmm, definitely, definitely. We got another comment from Minister Dwight. We have to let the young be more involved, as we did in men's ministry. 2 young men delivered the subject that evening. They did an awesome job. Yes, they did. Definitely. Um, yeah, definitely. Like we've been talking about, get them involved in a real way, not just in superficial things, so that they can see or experience how effective the church can be, and it can be in their lives, because it's a duality of things. As you spread the word, it to me, my own experience, it empowers me when I share when I'm able to share. But we also have to be led by the Spirit on who we talk to and how we put them out here. Got another comment. Religion is tradition. Freedom helps us flow in the Spirit and allows God to be God. Yep.
Yeah.
That's another sermon. Let God be God. And here's that. Make it relevant to their situations. Thank you, Brother Percy, for that. We're just saying that. And we have to meet people where they are. They have to be the example. You have to be the example for them to see God in you. It's great when I learned how to read. I just thank you, Sister Ebony. Yeah, I just learned how to read a little while ago. I've been walking upright pretty good for now. I don't drag my knuckles anymore. Oh boy! I told you I'm gonna say something, or I'm gonna do something to make me laugh. I will never be perfect, guys. I was telling Brother D'lo, I used to fumble over my words. It used to take me an hour to make a 3-minute video, and people are like, "Well, you're so good now." Well, I've been doing this since 2013, but I still make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm an imperfect being made by a perfect being, but we give all praises to the Most High for that. But yeah. Okay, guys, we got any more comments, any more questions, anything else that you think will help us to better reach our youth, better engage our youth? Because we want to talk about this thing, man. We really want, because the youth and young adults are the future of our church.
Yep.
I've seen so many churches that actually die because they don't adapt, and they don't, I don't want to use, assimilate is the word, but but resistance is not futile. We're not going to take over, but, to graft them in so that they feel like they're a part of what God is doing. That is the thing, because if we don't continue on, the message, churches can die. The message is not going to die. God's going to do what God's going to do. Like I said, like my wife said, God's going to be God, and we need to allow him to be that. But, yeah. Okay. All righty then. Well, it looks like there are no more questions, no more comments. Again, D'lo, appreciate you coming on. We're going to bring this to a close. And again, guys, appreciate everybody who has commented, everybody who has come online and watched with us tonight. Again, remember to please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you feel like this message has been relevant and it has been a blessing, please share the broadcast with someone. You never know. This conversation we're having might be the catalyst that inspires someone to turn to God, to come to Christ, and start changing their lives. So if there's nothing else, we're going to finish the same way we started, with a little music. Remember my motto. I pray that you be blessed. I pray that God continue to lead, guide, and direct you in all things that you do. And may the hand of God be with you. We will be on again. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Like we got somebody else. But this is a good dialogue. Thank you, Sister Bria.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Brother Percy, thank you for that comment. Minister Dwight, great job. Thank you, sir. We're just doing, guys. Wait a minute. Brother Michael came in. Well, let's stop the music. See what y'all do. But we're not perfect. Brother Michael said, when you answer the question, what's in it for them? Wait a minute. You will solve the problem with the youth. Wait a minute. Did I read that right? When you answer the question, what's in it for them? You will solve the problem with the youth. That's a little cryptic.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Let's see. Uh-oh. Come on. I love it. Again, I love when technology works. And more, if you have a challenge, 3 messages up. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, I challenge you all to start tomorrow. Smile, speak, reach out. Above all else, listen to them. Thank you, Sister Bria, for that one. That's a great challenge, guys. So that's the challenge. Let's see if I have missed anybody else. Again, guys, forgive me. This is my first time using this platform, so we're running. Okay. But Brother Michael, can you restate this question? Because I'm like, when you answer the question, what's in it for them? You will solve the problem with the youth. Can you give us a little bit more context on that? Because I'm reading that. Do you have an answer? I'm gonna put it back up.
I got no.
Yeah, that's a little cryptic. Maybe I know he knows what he meant, but it didn't translate in the writing. You know, if we'll give him a few more minutes to kind of restate that question or restate that statement, and we'll talk about it some more because we don't have all night because I want to, but we got a little bit more time. Okay. Let's see. Well, Brother Michael, either he stepped out or, but I don't know how to answer that or even how to talk about that point. Because I'm like, when you answer the question, what's in it for them? Okay, that's, I had to, Lord have mercy. I'll put this back up. When you answer the question, what's in it for them? Meaning when you're talking to people about what's in it for them to be in, I guess, come to church, talk to God, you will solve the problem with the youth. Yeah. So I think it wasn't really a question. I guess I just had to read it. Lord, that's why they say reading is essential, guys. Yeah, but now I get what he's saying, It's like, if you're witnessing to somebody or if you're talking to somebody about God and or with the youth, let them know what's in it for them. What stake do they have in it? How are they going to benefit? You'll solve the problem with the youth. That's what he's trying to say. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and we're both educated guys here, but see, Well, listen, guys, it has been a pleasure chatting with you, D'lo. Everybody, thank you so much for your comments, for your questions, for just chiming in. We appreciate you. But again, we're going to end it the same way we started, with a little music. All right.
I want to say thank you for having me, Joe.
Man. Appreciate you so much. Yeah. So look, guys, this is going to be a regular podcast again. We're going to be coming on every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. So appreciate everybody who's come in. Again, thank you, D'lo. And we'll see you in the next live stream. Later.